Now, let's understand very precisely what the role of each of your two legs is in the case of sumigaeshi, because they operate quite independently of each other, and how they operate is very, very important as to whether you succeed or not in sweeping people. Understand that when you go to sweep with sumigaeshi, you'll have a staggered stance. Typically, when we work from butterfly guard, we mostly work out of square stances with my two legs symmetrical, just like so. This is the more standard beginning position. But when it's time to work with sumigaeshi, we take a staggered stance. This creates an elevating leg, which is responsible for lifting my opponent's thigh. A common misunderstanding is that many people think this is where the power of the sumigaeshi comes from. In fact, this is where the direction of the sumigaeshi comes from. Okay, where we just take our opponent over the shoulder. The real horsepower behind the move comes off the floor with our second leg. It's this leg which enables us to prop up and come up into a good attacking position with our knees off the mat. And it's from here that we can follow a resisting opponent and sweep them over. Okay, so it's very, very important we understand exactly what we're doing here. A very useful solo drill for us to do to develop the propensity for this is to start down on the floor like so, on our side as we should be. We never fall back directly onto our back for sumigaeshi. That's a death sentence and makes the move very ineffective. We always want to make sure for classic sumigaeshis that we fall onto our side, onto one shoulder. And from here, our foot cocks back towards ourselves. We don't want an extended leg here. The foot comes back, my toes and the ball of my foot go onto the mat, and it's that which, as I lift with my left foot, my right foot drives me up onto my knee. Don't have your foot dead on the floor. Always your foot actively engaging with the mat. And as I start pushing, my whole body comes up off the mat. So only the ball of my foot and my right shoulder is on the mat. From this position, when we apply the elevation leg, you're going to sweep a lot of people over. Okay? Try to avoid coming to an elbow and sweeping from this position. There are sweeps where we do it, but not sumigaeshi. Okay? Make sure there's always a commitment down to one shoulder, like so, with our elbows in close to our body. And from here, the foot brings our knee up onto the mat. That switch from ball of the foot to the knee is what takes people over and onto their back. So if we have an opponent who starts off on two knees and we get a hold of our training partner's belt, as we lock up, look how first and foremost we commit to a shoulder. This action of committing to a shoulder, look what it does to Mateus's base. Immediately puts him into a defensive situation, head down, tail up. Okay, so that's always our first big commitment. Look what happens if Mateus doesn't put out his leg for support. Just the action of falling onto my shoulder already puts him in a very, very sweepable position. Only a tiny application of force now will put him over. Okay, so Mateus has to spread his base. He has to put his legs out into a tripod. So step number one, commit down to the shoulder. Once we've got that belt, down to the shoulder we go. And we do all of our work from this position. Now from here, my foot comes back towards my buttocks and takes me up onto my knees. Then from here, we start that walking action that enables us to follow our opponent's evasive movements and put them down to the mat. So, getting our legs to work in unison. First, we access the belt. And we come in on our training partner, we draw him forward and look out in this position. Shoulder first, coming up, and over she goes. Okay. A good way to practice this is to freeze halfway through the move. You won't do this in competition for obvious reasons because you lose a lot of your ability to impart momentum into the sweep. But what I encourage you to do is to perform the move drilling without momentum. So only mechanical perfection and good directionality of force will take your opponent over, rather than just the momentum of your body. You can always add momentum in later on. So what I like to see my students do when they drill is take the man up and stop. From this position, now only perfect mechanics will get him over. Only when my head moves away from him, only when my foot curls back towards myself and brings my knee up onto the mat, Only now will I be able to walk my opponent down to the floor using no momentum whatsoever and put him over in slow motion. Once you've perfected that slow motion without momentum, you're going to find it's extremely easy to add momentum into the ball and into the picture and just start putting people over in the blink of an eye. So here I fall physically with momentum and add all the elements we've looked at so far, and you'll see it's an easy turnover down to the mat. Practice it without momentum and then add momentum in later, you're going to start sweeping a lot of people.